Many people have wondered what would happen if all the glacial ice on the planet melted. Some believe that it would be a water world with no land in sight, while others think that could never happen. But the Earth is changing in more ways than you might think on its own. Many might wonder how much of the Earth's current global warming trend is affected by humans, regardless of who is to blame, whether the planet is just going through a natural phase in its evolution or if we are responsible. The evidence shows that the planet is getting warmer and warmer every year, but just how much of the planet could end up covered in water if all the glacial ice melted? Well, it turns out that all the ice melting would just be the beginning of our problems, as many more catastrophic things would happen. You all probably know by now that about 71% of the Earth's surface is already covered in water, but it wasn't always this way. Between 2.4 and 2.1 billion years ago, the planet's water was frozen in an ice age called the Huronian glaciation. The early stages of this ice age was severe and the entire Earth was frozen over like a giant snowball. This was likely triggered by a 250 million year law in volcanic activity. Less carbon dioxide in the air meant a reduced greenhouse effect, resulting in a much colder climate. The interesting thing is that during the 200 million years of the Cryogenian period, the Earth was plunged into the deepest cold that it had ever experienced, and it is theorized that the emergence of complex life may have caused this. The theory is that this glaciation was triggered by the evolution of large cells and possibly multicellular organisms. These organisms would have sunk to the sea floor after perishing, sucking all the CO2 out of the atmosphere, further weakening the greenhouse effect, which lowered global temperatures even more. Yes, even in theory, life forms can cause a global ice age. There is evidence that the planet's ice came and went in regular cycles, and that it's possible that it was driven in changes in the Earth's orbit, as well as what happened on the surface of the planet. When plants emerged and started to cover the Earth, they too pulled the CO2 out of the atmosphere. The reason we mention all of this is that regardless if we are or aren't responsible for the Earth's warmer climate, today evidence shows that the Earth goes through its own cycles of on and off ice ages. But it also proves that life can be responsible for changes in global temperature. The Arctic isn't the same as it was today, as it was, say, 100 years ago. Temperatures there have been rising at twice the normal rate, which has been sparking some very alarming changes unlike anything seen in recorded history. 87% of Antarctica Peninsula glaciers have melted since 1945, and other regions' sea ice is declining by 13% each decade. Scientific predictions that foresaw an ice-free Arctic Ocean during the summer between 2040 and 2050 may come to pass even sooner than we thought. The reason is that satellite estimates for sea ice thickness were overestimated by 25% due to the saline properties of the snow cover on top of the ice, which affected the accuracy of the readings. With that in mind, we can expect the ice to melt much sooner, and that's a scary thing. The oceans are also soaking up more heat. If the oceans become too hot, they will be unable to support marine wildlife. Because of the decline in oxygen, if all the glacial ice from the poles and the mountaintops melted right at this moment, ocean and sea levels would rise by more than 215 feet. There would be new shorelines, and many places on Earth would go underwater. A lot of people will think, well, that's no big deal. Just get everyone to move to higher ground. Sounds like a simple solution. However, aside from the fact that billions of people would be displaced, there would be more to worry about. Now that all the Arctic ice has melted, what is not commonly known is that the Earth's poles not only get less direct sunlight than lower latitudes, but the sea ice is white and therefore reflects most of the sunlight that hits back out into space. That reflectivity, called albedo, help keeps the poles cold and limits the heat absorption from the sun. That sea ice also influences the ocean's currents, which have a big effect on our weather. The reason is that oceans and air act like heat engines, which move heat to the poles in a constant quest for balance. Ocean currents move this warmer water along what you would call a global conveyor belt in a process known as thermohaline circulation. Without getting too technical, warming of the poles would disrupt Earth's overall heat flow, throwing weather out of control. It's no surprise that global warming has boosted severe weather in general. Over the decades, massive hurricanes could form because there would be no sea ice, which limits the amount of moisture that moves from the ocean into the melting of Arctic sea ice can have severe consequences, including the formation of super tornadoes and the release of methane gas, leading to a runaway greenhouse effect. This poses a threat to various wildlife species, such as polar bears, Arctic seals, and walruses, as their habitats are disrupted. Additionally, ice-free waters absorb more CO2, causing increased ocean acidity and negatively impacting shellfish and corals. The 9 million people living in the Arctic would experience coastal erosion, thawing permafrost, warmer temperatures, and changes in the availability of vital resources. The weight and pressure exerted by the ice have played a role in stabilizing the Earth's crust, which could result in massive earthquakes if the ice melts rapidly. Overall, the melting of Arctic sea ice has significant consequences on both the environment and human communities. Global warming has caused the loss of approximately 2.7 trillion tons of ice in Antarctica, leading to a rise in global sea levels by almost half an inch. The Pine Island, Waits, Haines, Smith, and Kohler glaciers in West Antarctica have experienced glacial isostatic adjustment, resulting in the land rising 5 times faster than previously believed. Since 1992, Antarctica has been losing ice at a rate of 219 billion metric tons per year, which is equivalent to filling 400,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools every 40 hours. In total, Antarctica lost 2,710 gigatons of ice from 1992 to 2017. It's crucial to understand that human activities are the primary cause of the greenhouse effect, which is responsible for the current global warming trend. To address global warming, individuals should consider reducing their carbon footprint and supporting sustainable practices. The UN has stated that human activities have led to an increase in atmospheric carbon dioxide levels from 280 to 400 parts per million over the past 150 years. These greenhouse gases, including carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, are believed to be responsible for a significant portion of the observed rise in Earth's temperatures in the last 50 years. To address this issue, individuals can make a difference by purchasing reusable products, being mindful of waste and recycling, reducing reliance on vehicles by walking or using public transportation, and planting trees. However, it is crucial for everyone to participate as collective action is required to make a substantial impact. It is hopeful that humanity will recognize this global threat and governments will act swiftly to mitigate further damage. Additionally, there is a possibility of a solar phenomenon called a grand minimum occurring as early as 2020, lasting until 2070. This event would lead to decreased magnetism, fewer sunspots, and lower ultraviolet radiation, resulting in reduced temperatures on Earth. Though it is unlikely to bring extreme cold similar to previous periods like the Little Ice Age, any help to combat global warming should be embraced by humanity. In conclusion, as Lyndon B. Johnson once said, we must provide future generations with a glimpse of the world as it was in the beginning in order to be remembered with gratitude. If you have any ideas on how to address global warming, please share them in the comments. Remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for future episodes. Thank you for watching.